Hi friends, welcome to Biju Guy's Teaching Cafe. I hope you are staying safe at home, happy. So, welcome to my video lecture. This is a very short lecture on approaches to political science. So, as you already know, political science is one of the oldest academic disciplines. It is therefore an academic discipline that has developed so many traditions, precedents, value systems that are all time tested also. So one such a tradition is how you view and see man's political behavior. For that purpose, this subject has developed approaches. They are traditional approach and modern approach. You can approach man's political behavior through the parameters of traditional methods, and also you can approach politics through the parameters of modern methods. This lecture is about what is traditional method in political science, or what is traditional approach in political science. Before introducing you to the theme of this lecture, I can tell you a very brief story of Malcolm Gladwell. I am telling you this story just to make you familiar with the core idea of this lecture. Malcolm Gladwell was an English-born Canadian journalist, author, and public speaker. He wrote a famous book. He has written so many famous books. His second book was an intriguing one. The title of that book was very interesting also. What is the title? The title of his book was Blink, B-L-I-N-K, Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. Friends, it was a 2005 book. It was a New York Times bestseller book. In this book, he used an interesting term called thin slicing, T-H-I-N-S-L-I-C-I-N-G, thin slicing. What is thin slicing? Thin slicing is a term popularly used in psychology and philosophy to describe the ability to find patterns in events based only on thin slices. Thin slices, in other sense, narrow windows of experience. That's it. The term means, that is, thin slicing means making very quick inferences, very quick conclusions or observations about the state or the characteristics or details of an individual's behavior or a particular situation with minimal amounts of information. That is, you are about to make some conclusions or observations about individuals or situations based on minimal information in hand. So, it is believed that brief judgments based on thin slicing are similar to those judgments based on so much information. That is, brief judgments based on very few information are similar to judgments based on so much information. So judgments based on thin slicing can be as accurate or even more accurate than judgments based on so much information. Clear? Okay? I hope you understood the idea. So, to reinforce his ideas, that is Blink, the power of thinking without thinking, our friend Malcolm Gladwell has sourced examples from science, medicine, sales and advertising, gambling, speed dating and for predicting divorces, tennis, military war games, movies and popular music. He sourced examples from a wide variety of fields in order to reinforce his argument. That is, judgments based on very few information are as accurate as judgments based on so much information. Friends, you see, for example, just see example. The Portuguese professional footballer, you may know, Cristiano Ronaldo, does not take too much time to think about how his opponents behave, or what might be the strategies being adopted by his opponents when he makes a particular shot. Right? So in football matches, you won't get too much time to think, to strategize and to hit the ball. 1/1000th of a second, within 1/1000th of a second, he takes a decision and act accordingly. He will not get enough time to think when a ball comes to his way. It was because of this decision that is being taken in 1/1000th of a second, he became a renowned footballer in the world and became legendary. This is case with so many other people. For example, you take the case of Indian cricketer, your favorite Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli doesn't make too much time to hit the ball when he faces every ball. He don't have that much time to think and act. He takes a decision within 1/1000th of a second when the ball comes his way. Clear? So friends, the famous Swiss tennis player Roger Federer, you might remember, doesn't get enough time to gather all the information about his opponent in the field in a match. He hit the tennis ball within 1/1000th of a second. This is again same with Sebastian Vettel, who became the world-renowned Formula 1 champion. And see, these are all successful people who took decisions within 1/1000th of a second in their career or in their profession or wherever they are. This is also same with all the people in all walks of life. Be it politicians deliberating on education bill in our parliament, be it a mother planning the household budget for the week, be it a bus driver who is overspeeding on the busy road. All the people take decisions, observations, conclusions, not because they have a bulk of information, but because of that moment, that particular moment in which they take a decision that decide, that shape the future of everything. Malcolm Gladwell called that time in which you make the best decisions in your profession or in career or wherever you are, that is blink. That is the power of thinking without thinking. Friends, that is why he put the title Blink. Friends, the nature has given humans enormous potentialities, enormous abilities, enormous power. We have certain qualities by nature. They are innate. They are within us. By the time you are born, the nature has given you so much qualities. The nature has given you certain power. The power lies within you. You need not to search for it. It is within you. Just realize it. You just realize the power within you. You are not learning all these skills from your surrounding. You are not learning all these skills from the people around, the society around you. The nature has given you some power. By nature, you are awesome. Friends, why I said all this information about Malcolm Gladwell and his book Blink is to tell you an important idea about traditional approach. Yes, friends, in traditional approach, there is a classical belief system that man is essentially good. He can lead a good life. He is able to take good decisions. He is able to take good actions. Man is lovable. Man is lovely. Man is virtuous. So you are all good people. You are all virtuous people, lovely people. Because the nature has created you that way. Right? You are good. That's it. The traditional approach, that is classical belief systems in political science, had the assumption that you need not to take so much information to propose theories about people or about situations. You need not to take so much information from around the world. That information is within you, your cognitive abilities. That is within you. You can interpret events, you can predict events, you can foresee what happens in the future. Why? Why you are able to predict events? Why you are able to see, make conclusions without possessing so much information? The traditional approach believe that, or the traditional thinking system in political science believe that man is essentially good. There is nothing unpredictable in man. There is nothing unpredictable in man. You can be predicted because your nature is such that you will never go against the system. So hence the traditional approach believe that man can lead a good life, his laws are good, his institutions are marvelous, his relationships are pure, his ideas are awesome. Man is moral creature. He will do only good things. These are, basic and founding assumptions about man and his nature in classical political thinking. Friends, therefore, traditional approach in political science tends to study man's institutions, man's moral nature, man's laws, man's history, how he lived in the past, in a way by using the innate potentialities within man, not by collecting so much information about man and his nature. So you can analyze man and his nature, man's political behavior, man's laws, man's institutions by using the power within you, the intuitive mind. So traditional approach is a type of seeing and viewing man's political behavior from a moral points of view. It is, of course, the oldest approach, originated in 5th century BC in ancient Greece and continued till 1950s. It developed out of the writings of some classical philosophers, classical thinkers, There are four different approaches in traditional approach. There are four types of approach. The philosophical approach, historical approach, legal and institutional approach. So let us see what are the main characteristics of a traditional approach. I am not going to make a detailed lecture on these four types of approach in this short video lecture. I will lecture it on another video. In this lecture, I am just introducing you what are the major features of or the characteristics of traditional approach. Friends, traditional approach is normative. You might be wondering what is this? What is said to be the normative? So normative is interpreting things from a moral points of view. That is, something is bad or something is good. Man is bad or man is good. That person is good or that person is bad. State is good or bad. Citizen is good or bad. Laws are good or bad. That constitution is good or that constitution is bad. See, interpreting things from the moral points of view of what is good, what is wrong, or from the points of view of what it ought to be, how it should look like. That's it. Normative means you have to behave in a particular way. You have to talk in a particular way. You have to socialize with the people in a particular way. You have to behave in a particular way. And you have to avoid that or you have to accommodate that. There is full of good and bad things in social world. And when that system breaks, that society is bad. When that man doesn't behave that particular way, that man is bad. And it is interpreting from a moral points of view. That is normative. So traditional approach is highly normative. And traditional approach is also prescriptive. So you might be wondering what is prescriptive. Of course. So prescriptive means traditional approach has set out certain standards of moral behavior. That said, it assumes that people are susceptible to pleasures. People are vulnerable to sensory pleasures. They are prone to sensory pleasures. So what do you need to have then? You need to behave in a particular way. A good teacher can lead you. A good state can lead you. A good leader can lead you. A good constitution or a good law can lead you. So this approach set out certain standard behavior and you are supposed to cope up with or you are supposed to adjust with that standard behavior. When you fail, you are not a good person, you are not a good citizen, your state is not a good state. So it is prescriptive. So it interprets society in terms of whether that society or that leader, that citizen, that laws, that institutions are good or bad, or why it became good or bad. So whether these things have led citizens to a good moral life. Prescriptive. And it evaluates society from the angle of whether the society or man behaves in that particular way. Clear? So third, a traditional approach is speculative. What is speculative? That is, there is little connection between theory and the field data you have collected. That is, traditional approach doesn't believe in collecting so many information about man and his social world. Rather, it speculates about events, man and things by using intuition, the intuitive mind. So it is highly speculative. It speculates about man's behavior, man's world, social world, institution, laws. That is meant by the word speculative. And four, traditional approach is value embedded. That is, it believes political behavior or political act is a moral act. Only good people enter into politics Only good people can become good leaders. Only good citizen can lead a good life in a good state. Institutions are created by good men. So man can never do wrong. Man will never commit crimes. Laws are good. Institutions are good. Leaders are good. Citizens are good. Society is good because it is inhabited by good people, right people, virtuous people. Man will never commit wrongs. So it is highly value embodied that it is the biasness of the biasness with which humans look upon events and man's behavior lead to conclusion. The biasness with which one look at events and man's behavior lead to conclusion. One's own values and biasness lead one to a particular conclusion. That is value embedded assumptions. So traditional approaches have value embedded assumptions. Clear? And finally, traditional approach has given more emphasis on structures and institutions. So it evaluates political structures and its nature. The classic example is Aristotle's classification of 156 constitution as into 6, that is 3 pure form and 3 perverted form. Aristotle has studied 156 constitution in the ancient Greece and found that there are 3 very good constitutions, and these 3 constitutions will become bad when they pervert. So that way traditional approach evaluates institutions by a comparative method. It compares institutions and find out which is better. So it studies how institutions should function, how constitution should operate, what is best institution, how one differs from the another one. This way it studies. Friends, these are the major characteristics of a traditional approach, but we are not sure whether these approaches are sufficient enough to understand and anticipate man's behavior, to predict events, to foresee what happens in the days to come. These are not, sufficient, maybe not sufficient enough to understand everything in the society, but these approaches dominated, that is philosophical, institutional, legal, historical approaches dominated thinking, political philosophy or political thinking for about centuries. From the ancient Greece to World War II, this approach dominated in political thinking, and it failed because of certain events, and I will tell you why it failed and why there was the need for thinking about the new approaches or modern approaches. That I will lecture in the next class. Friends, I hope I was able to create some spark in your mind. I hope you may raise some questions in the comment box. Thank you for listening me. Thank you. Bye.